I stand before the iron forge, and I do not understand why my hands are shaking. The red light from the manufactorum floods through my visor, painting everything the color of arterial spray. My gauntlets, still ceramite, still pure, still unblemished by the Omnissiah's touch, tremble against my bolter. This is wrong. Space Marines do not shake. We are the Emperor's angels of death, transhuman warriors beyond the weakness of fear. Yet here I am, Brother Kiranis of the Ultramarines 3rd Company, trembling like a mortal child before the doors that will unmake everything I am. The smell hits me first. Machine oil, incense, something else beneath it, copper and ozone and burnt flesh. The scent burrows into my nostrils, past the neural filters into the meat of my brain where it settles like a prophecy. I can hear the hammering from within, the rhythmic pounding of forge hammers against metal, against something that might have once screamed. The sound resonates in my chest plate, makes my twin hearts beat in sympathetic rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. Like a countdown, I remember sunlight. This memory comes to me now, unbidden and sharp as a combat knife. Not the dim red glow of this forge world, not the sterile white of the ship's lighting, but real sunlight, golden, warm. I was young, still mortal, still whole, still purely human before the transformation into Adeptus Astartes. My mother's face. I can see it clearly now, every line and wrinkle, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. She smelled of bread and earth. She touched my face with hands that were soft, human, fragile. She told me I was chosen, that I would become something greater than any man could dream. She was wrong about the dream part. I earned my place in the 3rd Company through blood and excellence. 2 centuries of warfare across a dozen systems. I led squads through the hell of Vraxian trenches. I held the line at Cronus when the Tau thought they could take our world. I felt pride, genuine human pride, when Captain Idaeus himself commended my tactical acumen. I had brothers, not the clinical term we use for all Astartes, but true brothers. Velius, who could quote the Codex Astartes verbatim and still find humor in its contradictions. Marcellus, whose aim was so perfect he could place a bolt round through a target's eye at 800 meters in a crosswind. We fought together. We bled together. We were together. 3 weeks ago, the Techmarines came to our company during evening recitation. They moved through our ranks like red-robed specters, their mechadendrites clicking and whirring, their eyes glowing with augmetic fire. They carried data slates and whispered in binaric cant, a language that sounded like insects dying. Captain Idaeus stood at attention, his face carved from stone. As they made their selection, they stopped before me. Brother Kiranis, the lead Techmarine said. His voice filtered through a vox grill that stripped away anything resembling humanity. You demonstrate exceptional comprehension of machine spirits. Your maintenance rituals exceed the standards of your company. You show aptitude. He paused, and I swear I heard something like pity in that mechanical rasp. You have been selected for the pilgrimage to Mars. You will join the priesthood of Mars. You will become Techmarine. I should have felt honored. This was elevation, recognition, a path to greater service to the Emperor and the Omnissiah. But all I felt was Velius's hand on my shoulder, squeezing once hard, in a grip that felt like goodbye. The Fabricator General's mandate is absolute. When Mars calls, we answer. Even Captain Idaeus, who had commanded me for 70 years, could only nod. His eyes met mine for one brief moment. I saw something there I had never seen before in my captain's face. I saw mourning. They gave me 3 days to prepare. 3 days to say farewells that could not be spoken aloud, because we are Astartes and we do not indulge in sentiment. Velius and Marcellus came to my cell the night before departure. We sat in silence for 2 hours, cleaning our weapons, performing the rituals we had performed together 1,000 times. Just before they left, Marcellus placed his hand over his primary heart. "Remember us, brother," he said. "Remember what you were." I did not understand the weight of those words then. Now the doors of the Iron Forge open before me, and the heat rushes out like the breath of a dying god. I see them inside, the Techmarines of my chapter, those who have already made this journey, They move with mechanical precision, their power armor festooned with augmetics and apparatus, their faces hidden behind baroque helm masks that render them alien. One turns toward me, and I recognize the heraldry of the 4th Company, Brother Artemidorus. We trained together as scouts 3 centuries ago. We scaled the cliffs of Ultramar Prime together, actually laughing when we reached the summit. He was quick with a joke, faster with a blade, and he sang battle hymns in a voice that could make even the sternest veterans smile. He looks at me now, and his eyes are lenses, cold, analytical, recording, measuring. He does not recognize me, or if he does, it does not register as anything meaningful. He simply nods, a curt, efficient gesture, and returns to his work, adjusting something in the exposed mechanisms of his torso where his ribs should be. I realize, in this moment of crystalline horror, that I am looking at my future. The master of the forge approaches me. His bulk enormous, more machine than man. Pipes and cables snake from his back like the tentacles of some deep ocean predator. His face is a skull. I cannot tell if it is a mask, or if he has simply allowed his flesh to wither away until only bone remains. When he speaks, it is in Gothic, but beneath it I hear the machine code, the binaric pulse that is his true language now. Brother Kiranis, he intones, welcome to the Omnissiah's embrace. You come to us as one thing. You will leave as another. This is necessary. This is holy. This is the price of knowledge. He extends a hand, no, not a hand, a mechanical claw, and gestures toward the heart of the forge. Come, your transformation awaits. The flesh is weak, Brother Kiranis. We will make you strong. I take a step forward. The door closes behind me with the finality of a tomb ceiling. The heat engulfs me. The smell of burning metal and sacred oils fills my lungs. Somewhere in the depths of the forge, something screams, whether machine or man, I cannot tell. I do not know it yet, but I will never see sunlight the same way again. I will never smell bread or earth. I will never feel a human hand on my face. I do not know it yet, but Brother Kiranis dies here in this moment, even though his body continues to walk forward. I do not know it yet, but I should have run. They begin with my hands. I am strapped to a surgical throne that predates the Imperium itself, its metal surface worn smooth by centuries of bodies. The restraints are unnecessary. I am Astartes, I am loyal, I will not resist, but they bind me anyway. Tradition, the master of the forge explains in his grinding mechanical voice. Tradition and practicality. The flesh resists even when the mind submits. The body knows what the brain refuses to acknowledge. That violation is coming. Medici servitors surround me, their faces blank, their movements precise. They are not human anymore if they ever were. Lobotomized, augmented, reduced to function. I wonder if they feel anything as they work. I wonder if I will become like them. And the thought makes something in my chest clench tight. The master of the forge looms over me, his mechadendrites spreading like a steel spider preparing to feed. Your hands, he says, show exceptional dexterity. This is good. The machine spirits favor sensitive touch, but flesh is inefficient. Flesh tires. Flesh bleeds. Flesh dies. He pauses, and one of his mechadendrites lifts a cutting tool that whines with barely restrained eagerness. We will improve you, I want to protest. I want to tell him that these hands have held bolters in battle, that they have gripped the hands of dying brothers, that they have performed the sacred rites of weapon blessing for 2 centuries. These are my hands. They are part of who I am, but I am Astartes. I do not speak. I endure. The first cut is agony. They assured me the anesthetics would be sufficient. They lied, or perhaps they simply do not remember what pain feels like anymore. The molecular saw bites into my wrist, and despite every neural enhancement, every pain dampener in my biology, I feel everything. The parting of skin, the severing of muscle, the grinding of blade against bone. I taste copper and ozone. I taste my own fear, metallic and sharp on my tongue. My hand comes away. And there is a moment, brief, eternal, where I watch it fall into a receptacle marked with the cog symbol of the Mechanicus. It lands with a wet sound. My hand, my flesh, discarded like waste. The cauterization follows immediately. The smell of my own burning meat fills the chamber, thick and greasy, catching in my throat. I hear my primary heart hammering, racing, trying to pump blood to a limb that no longer exists. The phantom sensation is maddening. I can still feel my fingers, can still flex them. But when I look down, there is only a cauterized stump, and the servitors moving with mechanical efficiency to attach the augmetic replacement. The augmetic hand is beautiful in its way. Constructed of blessed steel and sanctified ceramite, inscribed with micro-prayers and efficiency runes. It interfaces directly with my nervous system through neural shunts that they drive into the meat of my arm like nails into wood. Each connection sends lightning up my spine, makes my jaw clench so hard I taste blood from my bitten tongue. Then they activate it. The hand moves. I will it to close, and it closes. I will it to open, and it opens. But it is wrong. The sensation is wrong. There is no warmth, no texture, only data. Pressure readings, grip strength, temperature differentials, information instead of feeling. I pick up a metal stylus from the tray beside me, and I know its weight, its dimensions, its material composition, but I do not feel it. Not the way I used to. They take my other hand. Then they start on my arms. The process lasts 7 hours. 7 hours of cutting and burning and replacing. 7 hours of watching pieces of myself drop into receptacles. 7 hours of feeling cold metal and blessed machines slide into the spaces where flesh used to live. The Techmarines chant throughout, their voices rising and falling in hymns to the Omnissiah, praising the perfection of the machine, the weakness of flesh, the glory of augmentation. I do not feel glorious. I feel dismantled. When it is finished, when I am finally unshackled from the throne, I try to stand. My legs, still flesh, still mine, nearly collapse under the weight of my new arms. The augmetics are heavier than the muscle they replaced, denser, stronger. I look down at them, these perfect mechanisms, these blessed instruments of the Omnissiah, and I do not recognize them as part of me. Impressive, the master of the forge says, circling me with clicking steps. You retained consciousness throughout. Many do not. Your pain tolerance is exemplary. He reaches out with one of his mechadendrites and taps my new hand, producing a hollow metallic sound. These are sacred limbs, Brother Kiranis, forged in the blessed manufactorums of Mars itself, stronger than any flesh. You should be grateful. I am not grateful. I am violated, but I nod because that is what is expected. I understand, Master. Thank you for this blessing. He seems satisfied. Rest now. Tomorrow we begin your education. You must learn the mysteries of the machine, the 16 rituals of maintenance, the catechisms of technology. You must learn to speak in Binaric Kant, to commune with machine spirits, to see the world as we see it. He turns to leave, then pauses. And Brother Kiranis, you will find that food tastes different now. The neural interfaces affect sensory processing. This is normal. You will adapt. He is right about the food. They bring me a meal that evening, nutrient paste and protein supplements, standard Astartes fare. I have eaten this 1,000 times before, but when I place the spoon in my mouth with my new augmetic hand, the taste is muted, distant, like I am tasting it through a Vox speaker. The texture is wrong. Everything is wrong. I force myself to eat because my body requires fuel, but there is no satisfaction in it, no pleasure, only the mechanical act of consumption. I try to sleep that night. My cell is small, austere, lit by the red glow of forge light from the windows. I lie on the cot and try to find a comfortable position, but my new arms are heavy, awkward. When I finally drift into something like rest, I dream of my mother's face. I dream that I reach out to touch her cheek, to feel her warmth one last time. But in the dream, when my hand touches her, she recoils. She looks at my augmetic fingers with horror and whispers, "What have you become?" I wake with my primary heart pounding. The next morning begins my education. I am assigned to Techmarine Hadrian, a veteran of 4 centuries who has more machine than man left in him. His lower body is entirely mechanical, a spider-like apparatus of legs and servo arms that allows him to navigate the vertical workshops of the forge. His face is still partially flesh, though scarred by chemical burns and pocked with interface ports. "You think you have suffered," he says when we meet, his voice crackling with Vox distortion. "You think this is the worst of it. He laughs, a sound like grinding gears. Brother, we have barely begun. Before you return to your chapter, you will be hollowed out and rebuilt. You will learn every mystery, every secret. You will become a bridge between the Astartes and the machine cult, and in doing so, you will become neither. Neither? I ask, my new hands clenching involuntarily. Neither fully Astartes, he explains, nor fully Mechanicus. You will return to your brothers changed. They will look at you differently, speak to you differently. You will be necessary but separate, honored but isolated. You will have knowledge they cannot possess and obligations they cannot share. He leans closer, and I smell the lubricant and sacred oils that have soaked into his remaining flesh. They will call you brother, but they will not mean it the way they once did. And you will know this. You will feel it every day. I want to tell him he is wrong. I want to believe that my brothers, Velius, Marcellus, Captain Idaeus, will welcome me back unchanged in their eyes. But I remember Brother Artemidorus, the way he looked at me without recognition, without warmth. I say nothing. The training is relentless. 12 hours a day in the workshops, learning to commune with machine spirits, to diagnose the ailments of war machines, to perform the sacred rites of repair and maintenance. I learned the binaric cant, that clicking, chirping language of pure data. At first it sounds like noise, like static, but gradually patterns emerge. Meaning crystallizes from chaos. I find myself thinking in binary, in algorithms, in efficiency calculations. This terrifies me more than the surgery. My first assignment is to repair a damaged bolter. Simple, I think. I have field stripped and reassembled bolters thousands of times. But Hadrian stops me before I even begin. No, he growls. Not like that. You think like a warrior. You must think like a priest. The bolter is not a tool. It is a soul, a machine spirit that must be honored and appeased. You must understand its pain, its anger. You must commune with it before you can heal it. I place my augmetic hands on the weapon's casing and try to feel what he describes. At first there is nothing. Then slowly, through the neural interfaces in my palms, I sense something. Data flows. Feedback patterns. The weapon is damaged, yes, but more than that, it is resentful. It feels neglected. Its machine spirit is wounded by poor maintenance, by rough handling, by disrespect. I whisper the litany of repair. I anoint the mechanisms with sacred oils. I speak to the weapon in binaric cant, promising to restore it, to honor it. And as I work, following the mysteries that Hadrian teaches me, the bolter responds. The machine spirit calms. The mechanisms align. When I test fire it into the practice range, it functions perfectly, but more than that, it feels satisfied. I have communed with a machine. I have heard its voice. I have understood its needs. This should feel like triumph. Instead, it feels like losing another piece of myself. Because part of me, a large part, believed what Hadrian described was superstition. Ritual theater meant to focus the mind. But I felt it. It was real. The machine spirit was real, and if machines have spirits, have voices, have needs and desires, then what does that make me? With my augmetic arms, my neural interfaces, the pieces of blessed technology that are slowly replacing my flesh, am I still human, still Astartes? Or am I becoming something else entirely? That night I try to remember my mother's face again. The image is there, but it is fainter now, like a picked capture left too long in sunlight. I can remember that she smiled, but not exactly how. I can remember that she was warm, but not precisely what that warmth felt like. I have been in the Iron Forge for 16 days. Already I'm forgetting. Part A. Early Adaptation. The first year on Mars is a lesson in transformation disguised as education. They continue the augmentation in stages, parceling out the surgeries between intensive training sessions, as if by spreading the dismantling across months they can make it less traumatic. They cannot. Each procedure is its own unique violation, its own small death. My right leg from knee to ankle, replaced with blessed steel and sanctified servos after a training accident in the deep forge that Hadrian later admits was orchestrated. You need to understand, he tells me as I lie recovering, that flesh is always one moment from failure. The machine endures. I learn the 16 rituals of maintenance. I learn to speak fluent binaric cant until I find myself thinking in ones and zeros, in probability cascades and efficiency algorithms. I learned to see the world differently, not in terms of threats and tactical advantages as I was trained as an Astartes, but in terms of tolerances and failure points, in machine spirits, temperaments, and techno-arcane mysteries. When I look at a Land Raider now, I do not see a transport vehicle. I see 12,000 individual components, each with its own spirit, its own needs, its own voice crying out for attention. This should feel like enlightenment. Instead, it feels like madness. I cling to my memories of before like a drowning man clutches debris. Every night in my sparse cell, I perform a private ritual that no one has commanded. I close my eyes, still flesh, still mine, though they talk of replacing them with augmetic targeting arrays, and I recite the names of my brothers: Velius, Marcellus, Captain Idaeus, Sergeant Helvanus, Brother Octavian, Brother Marius. I picture their faces, hear their voices, remember specific moments. The time Velius made a joke during a briefing that made even the captain crack a smile. The time Marcellus saved my life on Cronus, taking a plasma bolt meant for me. The time Captain Idaeus placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Well done, my son. These memories are my anchor. As long as I can remember, I tell myself, I am still myself. But the memories are changing, becoming less vivid, like they are being viewed through a scratched lens. Is it my mother's face that I remember, or is it my memory of remembering? The distinction matters, and I am losing the ability to tell the difference. I write things down. In the quiet hours, I use my augmetic hands, still strange, still not quite mine, to scratch notes on parchment. Details about my life before. The smell of Ultramar's forests, the taste of wine at the chapter feast, the feeling of real hands gripping a blade. I write feverishly, desperately, trying to preserve what I am losing. Hadrian finds my writings during an inspection. He reads them silently, then looks at me with something that might be pity in his one remaining organic eye. "You are grieving," he says. "This is common. You are grieving for yourself, for what you were. But you must understand, Brother Kiranis, that person is gone. He died the moment you entered the Iron Forge. What you are now is better, stronger, more useful to the Emperor and the Omnissiah. And if I do not feel better," I ask, my voice cracking. "If I feel less, then you are learning," he replies, not unkindly. "The flesh lies to us. It tells us we are diminished when we are improved. It tells us we are losing when we are gaining. The machine knows the truth. In time you will too." He leaves me my writings. This small mercy feels monumental. 6 months pass. 8 months, a year. I complete the primary mysteries and begin the secondary. I learn to hear the voices of ancient machine spirits, to interpret their whispers and demands. I repair my first Imperial Knight, a towering war machine whose pilot regards me with suspicion until I soothe the temperamental spirits in his mount's left leg actuator. The pilot thanks me in High Gothic, calls me priest, and I realize he is not wrong. I am becoming a priest, an intermediary between man and machine. But what does that make me? I see other initiates from various chapters. We do not speak often. We are too busy, too exhausted, too focused on survival. But I watch them change. A dark angel named Azariel, who arrived proud and fierce, his dark green armor spotless, his bearing noble. Month by month I watch him be taken apart. First his arms like me, then more his legs, his spine, his jaw replaced with a mechanical vox grill after an accident with a plasma forge. By the 10th month, he looks more servitor than Astartes. His eyes, still human, still horrified, stare out from a face that is more machine than flesh. One night I find him in the meditation chamber, weeping. The sound is strange, filtered through his mechanical jaw, emerging as static-laced sobs. I sit beside him, and for a long time we say nothing. I cannot taste anything. He finally whispers. They replaced my tongue with a chemical analysis probe. They said it was necessary, that I needed to be able to identify blessed unguents by composition. But I cannot taste anything. No water, no wine, no bread, just data, chemical compounds. Nothing has flavor anymore. I do not tell him that food stopped tasting right for me 9 months ago. I do not tell him that it gets worse. Instead, I place my augmetic hand on his shoulder. The servo motors whir softly, and I stay with him until his weeping stops. 3 weeks later, Azariel throws himself into a plasma forge. They pull his body out in pieces. The master of the forge shakes his head, makes a notation in his data slate, and remarks that some flesh is too weak to transcend. I wonder if that is true, or if some flesh is strong enough to choose death over this. I am rotated back to combat training to maintain my Astartes readiness. It is different now, fighting with augmetic limbs. I am stronger, objectively measurably stronger. My punch can dent ceramite. My grip can crush stone. But I am also slower, more mechanical in my movements. The fluid grace of Astartes combat is gone, replaced by calculated precision. I spar with other Techmarines in training. We move like machines fighting machines, all calculation and efficiency, none of the ferocity and passion that should define Astartes combat. When I land a blow, I feel the impact through pressure sensors. When I am struck, I receive damage reports. There is no pain anymore, not really. Just information. I score a victory against a space wolf named Hrothgar. He outweighs me by 30 kilos of muscle and fury. But I calculate his attack vectors, predict his patterns, and exploit the 0.3-second delay in his left side reactions. I win through mathematics, not through warrior skill. He helps me to my feet afterward, and he looks at me with something like sadness. "You fight well, brother," he says in his thick Fenrisian accent, "but you fight cold. Where is your blood? Where is your fury?" I have no answer for him. My fury died on a surgical throne, bled out into waste receptacles along with my flesh. Part B, deep routine. Years pass. How many? I stop counting after the third. Time loses meaning in the forges of Mars, where the light is always red, where the hammers never stop ringing, where day and night blend into one continuous cycle of learning and augmentation and service. I return to my chapter. This should be a homecoming, a triumphant return. I have completed the mysteries. I have been ordained as a Techmarine. I bear the sacred red of Mars on my armor now, the cog-tooth symbol of the Mechanicus emblazoned on my shoulder guard. I am qualified to tend the chapter's most sacred machines, to commune with the machine spirits of our vehicles and war gear, to preserve the technology that makes our crusades possible. Captain Idaeus greets me in the landing bay. He is older. 2 decades have passed during my training, and new scars cross his face. He embraces me in the warrior's greeting, his gauntlets clapping against my back. "Brother Kiranis," he says warmly, "you return to us at last. The chapter has missed your service." But his eyes do not meet mine. He looks at my augmetic arms, at the mechadendrites that now sprout from my back, at the crimson robes that mark me as separate. He looks at me the way one looks at a useful stranger, not a son. I search for Velius and Marcellus. I find them in the 3rd Company's barracks, and my primary heart surges with something like joy. My brothers, my friends, the men who knew me before. Velius sees me first. His face lights up. "Kiranis! By the Emperor, you're back." He strides forward, arms outstretched, then stops. His smile falters as he takes in the extent of my augmentation. The arms, the legs, the mechadendrites, the red robes, the cog symbol. "Welcome home, brother," he says, and his voice is warm. But there is a space between us now that was not there before. A gap measured not in distance but in understanding. Marcellus grips my shoulder, my flesh shoulder, one of the few remaining, and nods. "You look well," he lies. "Mars has made you strong." We try to reconnect. We sit in the company common room, cleaning weapons as we once did, sharing stories of battles fought. They tell me of the campaign on Damnation, the war against the Necrons, the brothers lost and the victories won. I listen, and I remember what it was like to care about such things with the passion of a true Astartes. But I am distant now. When they describe the ferocity of combat, the rage and glory of close-quarters battle, I find myself analyzing their tactics, calculating more efficient approaches, thinking about ammunition expenditure and weapon maintenance cycles. When Velius describes the moment he avenged Brother Octavian's death, his voice rising with righteous fury, I think about the suboptimal angle of his bolter fire. They notice. The conversation dies slowly, strangled by my inability to respond as I once would have. "You've changed, Kiranis," Velius says finally, and there is no accusation in his voice, only sadness. "The Omnissiah's gifts are great," I reply, and I hear how mechanical my words sound, how rote, how priest-like. They do not invite me to their table again. I throw myself into my work. The chapter's machine spirits need me. The land raiders, the predators, the rhinos, the dreadnoughts, all of them cry out with needs that only I can hear. I spend my days in the armory and the forge, surrounded by the smell of sacred oils and the sound of servo motors. I perform the rituals, speak the prayers, commune with the ancient spirits. I am good at this. I'm exceptional at this. Within 6 months, I have improved the chapter's vehicle readiness by 17%. Within a year, I have successfully awakened 2 dreadnoughts that had been silent for centuries. The master of the forge commends me. The chapter master himself acknowledges my service. I am useful, necessary, valued. I am alone. The other Techmarines are my peers now, not the battle brothers of the 3rd Company. We work in silence mostly, communicating in binaric cant. Our mechadendrites clicking and whirring as we labor. There is no camaraderie here, no brotherhood. Just efficiency, just service, just the endless maintenance of machines that will outlive us all. Brother Artemidorus is here, in the chapter's forge. I try to speak with him, to connect over our shared past, but he barely remembers me. When I mention our training together, our climb up the cliffs, his face remains blank. That was another life, he says simply. It does not matter now. Only the work matters. I wonder how long until I speak the same words to some newly returned Techmarine, my own past scrubbed away by centuries of service. The decades blur. 10 years, 20, 30. I serve on 3 major crusades, maintaining the chapter's war machines under the worst conditions imaginable. On Armageddon, I perform emergency repairs to a land raider while orc artillery rains down around me. On Medusa Phi, I conduct the rites of awakening for an ancient dreadnought while the warp itself tears at reality. On Cronus, the same world where I once fought with Velius and Marcellus, I direct the reconstruction of an entire armored column after a devastating Tau ambush. I am good at my work. I am very good. My reputation spreads beyond my chapter. Other ultramarine successors request my service. I am loaned out to the Genesis chapter, to the White Consuls, to the Nova Marines. Everywhere I go, I fix what is broken. I soothe what is angry. I awaken what sleeps, and everywhere I go, I am separate. The brothers I work alongside treat me with respect, but not warmth. They call me Techmarine more often than they use my name. I eat alone. I pray alone. I exist in the spaces between the chapter and the Mechanicus, belonging fully to neither. The loneliness should hurt. I remember that loneliness used to hurt in the early years, when I still had enough humanity to feel such things keenly. But now it is simply a fact. Like gravity, like the speed of light, like the decay rate of uranium. It exists, it is unchangeable. I accept it. I try to remember my mother's face. I cannot. I know I had a mother. The data is there, the biographical record confirms it, but I cannot picture her. Was she tall, short? Did she smile often? I do not know. The memory is gone, replaced by technical specifications and maintenance protocols. I try to remember what wine tasted like. I cannot. My tongue was replaced 7 years ago after an acid burn in the forge. Now I have a chemical analysis probe, like Azariel did before he died. I can identify blessed oils by composition. I can detect impurities in sacred unguents at parts per million. But I cannot taste wine or bread or anything else. Just data I fight in battles. I kill the enemies of the Emperor. Orcs, chaos cultists, tyrannids, Tau. I kill them efficiently without rage, without passion. I calculate optimal firing solutions. I target structural weaknesses. I reload with mechanical precision. I am effective, but I do not feel the glory of combat anymore. I do not feel the righteous fury that should fill an Astartes in battle. I just feel tired, so tired. A tiredness that has nothing to do with physical exhaustion and everything to do with existing in a body that no longer feels like mine. Serving a role that has stripped away everything I once was. Part C. Deep erosion. How long has it been? I checked the chronologue. 97 years since I entered the Iron Forge. 97 years. I am over 3 centuries old now, ancient by the standards of most humans, mature by the standards of Astartes. I have served the chapter longer as a Techmarine than I did as a regular battle brother. My time in the 3rd Company, my years fighting alongside Velius and Marcellus, My life before Mars, all of it constitutes less than half of my total existence. I have been this thing, this hybrid, this priest warrior, this machine man, longer than I was purely Astartes. So why does it still feel wrong? I stand in the forge, performing routine maintenance on a predator-destructor's targeting system. My mechadendrites move with perfect precision. My augmetic hands adjust components with micron-level accuracy. I speak the litany of repair, anoint the mechanisms with sacred oils, commune with the machine spirit. The work is flawless. The tank's accuracy improves by 4.7%. I feel nothing, not satisfaction, not pride, not even the mild contentment of a job well done. Just emptiness, just the void where emotion should be. I remember, vaguely, distantly, that I used to feel things. Joy when a battle was won, grief when a brother fell, pride when I was commended, fear in the moments before combat. Those emotions are gone now, worn away by decades of augmentation and isolation, ground down by the endless repetition of my duties. I am becoming what Brother Artemidorus already is, what the Master of the Forge is, a function, a role, a machine that maintains machines. Velius is dead. I learned this from a casualty report, not from a personal notification. He fell on Damnos, defending a position against a Necron assault, died with his bolter in his hands, surrounded by alien dead. A glorious death, an Astartes death, the kind of death we all hope for. I stand in my cell, holding the data slate with his casualty report, and I search inside myself for grief. It should be there. He was my brother, my friend, one of the few connections I had to my life before. His death should devastate me. I feel nothing, just a distant acknowledgement of data. Resource lost, organizational chart updated, tactical implications assessed. I realize in that moment that I am broken. Not my augmetics, they function perfectly. Not my knowledge, I possess the accumulated wisdom of the Mechanicus. But something essential, something human, something that made me more than just an efficient machine. That is broken. That is gone. I cannot remember the last time I laughed. I cannot remember the last time I felt anything resembling happiness. I cannot remember what it feels like to connect with another being on any level beyond the transactional. Marcellus visits me in the forge. He is a veteran sergeant now, decorated and honored. Scars cover his face, and his armor bears the marks of 1,000 battles. He finds me in the dim red light, surrounded by machines, my mechadendrites working on 3 different projects simultaneously. Kiranis, he says, I came to tell you about Velius. I know you served together before Mars. I received the casualty report, I reply, not looking up from my work. His death was tactically sound. He held the position for 4.3 minutes beyond projected resistance duration. His sacrifice allowed for successful evacuation of the civilian sector. Marcellus stares at me. That's it? That's all you have to say? Kiranis, he was our brother. He died. All brothers die, I respond. The Emperor's work continues regardless. For a long moment, Marcellus says nothing. Then quietly, you're not him. You're not Kiranis. I don't know what you are, but my brother died on Mars, didn't he? He leaves before I can formulate a response. If I still possessed the capacity for emotional pain, his words would hurt. They do not. They are just true. Another decade passes. Captain Idaeus dies, not in battle, but peacefully, in the Apothecarian, his body finally succumbing to wounds accumulated over 4 centuries of warfare. I attend his funeral. I stand with the other brothers, watch his body committed to the cold of space. Listen to the chapter master speak of his valor and sacrifice. I feel nothing. I examine this numbness the way I would examine a malfunctioning servo. Analytically, diagnostically. Is this depression? Emotional trauma? Or is this simply what happens when you replace enough of a man with machine? At what point does the consciousness transfer from the flesh to the augmetics? At what point do you stop being you and start being an echo, a ghost wearing your own name? The ship of Theseus paradox haunts me. If you replace every plank of a ship, is it still the same ship? If you replace every piece of a man, is he still the same man? I have 2 flesh legs remaining, 1 flesh arm. Approximately 40% of my torso is still biological. My brain is unaugmented, though neural interfaces spider through it like a cancer. My hearts still beat, both of them the twin hearts of an Astartes, the last proof that I was once one of the Emperor's chosen. But am I still Kiranis? Or am I just a machine that remembers being him? I search through my old writings, the notes I made in the first years on Mars. I find the entry about my mother, the desperate description I wrote trying to preserve her memory. I read it and the words are meaningless. I can see that I described her face, her smile, her warmth, but I cannot connect to it. It is data about a stranger. The woman I described, my mother, she is gone. The man who wrote those words, young Kiranis, still human enough to grieve, he is gone too. Only this remains. This mechanical priest, this empty thing in red robes, useful and efficient and utterly hollow. I work, I repair, I maintain. Years pass, decades pass. I do not count anymore. I serve the chapter faithfully, tirelessly. I am everything they need me to be. Skilled, reliable, dedicated. I am everything except alive. They bring me a new recruit, a battle brother from the 3rd Company, selected for the pilgrimage to Mars. His name is Cassian, and when I meet him in the forge, I see myself, not as I am, but as I was. Young, fierce, proud. His armor is spotless, his faith unshakable. He looks at me with respect, but also with barely concealed horror. I do not blame him. I know what I look like. More machine than man, my red robes concealing the extent of my augmentation, my mechadendrites clicking and whirring with every movement. I am what awaits him. I am his future, and his future is terrible. Brother Cassian, I say, my voice filtered through a Vox grill that replaced my throat after an accident I barely remember. You have been chosen for great honor. You will go to Mars. You will learn the mysteries. He nods, but his eyes betray his fear. Yes, Techmarine, I understand. Do you? The question emerges before I can stop it. Do you understand what you will lose? He shifts uncomfortably. I will gain knowledge. I will gain the ability to serve the chapter in ways you will lose yourself. I interrupt, and my own words surprise me. I have not spoken like this in decades, have not allowed myself to acknowledge the truth so nakedly. You will be taken apart, Brother Cassian, piece by piece. They will cut away your flesh and replace it with blessed steel. They will tell you it is necessary, that it is holy, that you are being improved. I step closer and my mechadendrites spread wide, casting spider-like shadows on the forge walls. They will be telling the truth. You will be improved. More efficient, stronger, more useful. But you will also be less human, less connected, less yourself. And one day, decades from now, you will look in a mirror and not recognize what looks back. Cassian's hand moves to his bolt pistol, an unconscious gesture. He fears me now. Good, he should. Why do you tell me this? He asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Because no one told me, I reply. Because I wish someone had. Because maybe you are stronger than I was. Maybe you can hold on to something I could not. But even as I say the words, I know they are false comfort. No one is strong enough. The transformation is not a test of will. It is an inevitability, like rust-consuming iron. He leaves, his face pale, and I am alone again with the machines. Except I'm not alone. A voice speaks from behind me, a voice I have not heard in nearly a century. You speak heresy, Brother Kiranis. I turn, and there is the master of the forge, not my old master. He died 50 years ago, replaced by another, who was replaced by another. This one is named Hadakos, and he is more machine than any Techmarine I have ever seen. His body is a cathedral of augmetics, barely a scrap of flesh visible beneath the Baroque machinery. I speak truth, I reply. The boy deserves to know. The boy deserves to serve. Hadakos interrupts, his voice booming with mechanical amplification. As do you. As do we all. Your doubts are weakness, brother. They are the flesh speaking, clinging to obsolete concepts of identity. You should have transcended such concerns by now. And if I cannot transcend them? I ask, and the question feels dangerous, feels like standing on a precipice. If some part of me still remembers what I was and grieves for it? Hadakos studies me with lens eyes that show no warmth, no understanding. Then that part should be excised like dead flesh from a wound. You are Techmarine. You are servant of the Omnissiah. There is no room for grief, no space for doubt. Only service. He turns to leave, then pauses. I will overlook your words to the recruit this time, Brother Kiranis. But if I hear of such contamination, again, we will need to discuss corrective measures. The Mechanicus has techniques for addressing ideological drift. The threat is clear. Conform or be corrected. Serve or be servitorized. When he leaves, I am shaking, my flesh parts trembling, my augmetic parts vibrating with excess energy. I am furious. When did I last feel fury? When did I last feel anything this strongly? The emotion terrifies and exhilarates me in equal measure. I storm through the ship's corridors, my mechadendrites lashing, my augmetic footsteps ringing on the deck plates. Brothers step aside, watching me with confusion and concern. The mad Techmarine, they will whisper later, finally broken under the weight of a century's service. I find myself in the Chapel of Remembrance, a place I have not visited in decades. Here in alcoves along the walls rest the memorial tablets of fallen brothers. Thousands of names carved in stone, lit by flickering candles. The dead of the Third Company, the honored slain, the martyrs and heroes. I search for Velius's name. I find it, high on the western wall. Velius Maximus fell on Damnos for the Emperor. I stand before his memorial and I try to remember his face. I try to remember his laugh, his voice, the way he could quote the Codex Astartes and still mock its more ridiculous dictums. I try to remember the friend I had, the brother who knew me when I was still whole. Nothing comes. Just emptiness, just the aching void where memories should be. I'm sorry, I whisper to the tablet. I'm sorry I could not grieve for you. I'm sorry I felt nothing when you died. You deserved better. You deserved a brother who could still feel. Do you want to feel? The voice comes from the shadows. I turn, my combat protocols activating, threat assessment running. But it is only a Dreadnought, one of the chapter's ancient heroes, entombed in his walking sarcophagus, kept alive by technology and duty. Brother Kalen, I identify him by his markings. I did not know you were awake. I wake sometimes, his vox voice rumbles deep and hollow. When the dreams become too much, or when I sense a kindred spirit, his massive form shifts, servos whining. You asked if you want to feel. That is a question I ask myself every time they wake me. I approach him carefully. Dreadnoughts are unpredictable, their consciousness fragmented by centuries of sleep and waking. But Kalen seems lucid now, his optical senses focused on me with something like understanding. How long have you served? I ask. 643 years since my entombment, he replies. 791 years total. I am old, Brother Kiranis. So old that I barely remember being flesh. I remember that I had a face once. I remember that I could walk under my own power, could hold a bolter in hands that had sensation. But the memories are like shadows, distant, unreal. Does it get easier? The question escapes before I can censor it. Does the loss eventually stop hurting? Kalen is silent for a long moment. Then no and yes, the hurt stops. But only because everything stops. You become numb. You become function. You wake, you fight, you sleep. Wake, fight, sleep. The years blend together. The battles become indistinguishable. You serve faithfully, gloriously, but you are not alive. Not truly. You are a weapon that remembers being a man. He moves closer, his massive form looming. I remember the day they entombed me. I was dying. Tyrannid bioacid had eaten through my armor, consumed most of my body. They gave me a choice, death or this. I chose this. I chose to serve beyond death, to continue the fight. I thought I was being noble. I thought I was being brave. You regret it? I whisper. Every single day, he admits, and the pain in his mechanical voice is raw, undeniable. But I cannot die, cannot rest. I am bound to this sarcophagus, bound to service, bound to an existence that should have ended centuries ago. I am a ghost, Brother Kiranis, a memory of a man, piloting a war machine waiting for an enemy powerful enough to finally grant me the Emperor's peace. I stare at him, this ancient warrior, and I see my future. More decades of service, more centuries, my flesh slowly failing piece by piece until nothing remains but brain and duty. And when even that is not enough, entombment. An eternity of wake, fight, sleep. An eternity of being useful but not alive. Is there no escape? I ask. Only one, Kalen replies. But it is not one we are permitted to take. We are Astartes. We serve until death. And death for us comes slowly. He begins to move away, back toward his resting alcove. But I stop him with a question. Brother Kalen, do you remember what it felt like to be happy? He pauses. For a long time, he does not answer. When he finally does, his voice is barely audible. No, I remember that I was happy once. I remember the data of it, occasions, events, moments that should have brought joy. But the feeling itself, that is gone, lost to time and transformation. I am sorry, Brother Kyranus. I do not think either of us will feel such things again. He returns to his alcove, his massive form settling into its cradle, and the light in his optical sensors dims, sleeping again, dreaming of a humanity long lost. I am alone in the chapel, surrounded by the names of the dead, and I finally break. The sound that emerges from my vox grill is not quite a sob. I no longer have the anatomy for proper crying, but it is close. It is the sound of something inside me finally shattering, something that has been cracking for a century finally giving way. I collapse to my knees, my augmetic joints grinding, my mechadendrites splayed across the floor. I remember. For one brief, agonizing moment I remember, my mother's face clear as day. Her smile, the way her hair caught the sunlight, the warmth of her hands on my face, the day I left for the chapter. Be brave, my son, she said. Be strong, but never forget to be kind. I remember Velius laughing, his head thrown back, joy radiating from him like heat from a forge. I remember Marcellus's steady presence, his quiet strength. I remember Captain Idaeus's hand on my shoulder, his pride in me evident in every word. I remember what it felt like to be human, to be connected, to be part of something greater than myself, not through duty, but through genuine bond. And then the memory fades, slipping away like water through my augmetic fingers, and I'm left with nothing but the echo, the shadow of what I felt, the knowledge that I once experienced something real, something true, something worth remembering. But the memory itself is gone again, already fading back into the mist. I scream. The sound echoes through the chapel, distorted by my vox grill, bouncing off the stone walls. It is rage and grief and despair and denial all at once. It is the sound of a man realizing he is already dead, has been dead for decades, and his body simply has not caught up yet. I scream until my power supply warns of energy depletion, until my vox grill overheats and shuts down, until I have nothing left. Then I sit in the silence, surrounded by the names of the honored dead, and I wonder which is the greater mercy, to die on the battlefield, your name carved in stone and your memory preserved, or to live like this, a walking memorial to yourself, useful but empty, functional but hollow. I cannot answer. I'm too tired, too broken, too far gone. But as I kneel there in the darkness, I make a decision. I will remember this moment, this crisis, this breaking point. I will remember what it felt like to feel, even if it is only pain. Because pain means I am still here. Somewhere, beneath the augmetics and the numbness and the centuries of erosion, some small part of Brother Kyranus still exists. Even if it is dying. Even if it cannot be saved, it is still here, and that will have to be enough. I return to my duties. What else is there? The breakdown in the chapel is not spoken of, though I know others witnessed it. Brothers who saw the mad Techmarines screaming at ghosts, collapsing in grief for reasons they cannot understand. They do not report it. Perhaps they pity me. Perhaps they simply do not care. Either way, I am permitted to continue. I serve. It is what I do. It is what I am. Cassian goes to Mars. I watch him depart, see the fear in his eyes as he boards the transport, and I say nothing. My warnings made no difference. They never do. Every generation of Techmarines learns the same lessons, suffers the same losses. We are caught in a cycle as inevitable as orbital mechanics, as unchangeable as the laws of physics. Decades pass. My flesh continues to fail piece by piece, and I replace it. Not with reluctance now, not with grief, but with efficiency. My remaining leg fails, nerve death, muscular atrophy, and I replace it with blessed steel. A portion of my torso is damaged in combat, shrapnel from an orc bomb, and I replace the ruined organs with mechanical equivalents. I am becoming like Hadakus, like Brother Artemidorus, like the master of the forge before him. More machine with each passing year, less man, until the distinction becomes meaningless. I should fight this. I remember that I used to fight this. But the fight is exhausting and I am so tired. I work. I repair the land raiders and predators, the dreadnoughts and drop pods. I commune with machine spirits, speak their language, tend their needs. I am good at this. I am exceptional. My service record is exemplary. 3 centuries of faithful labor, and I have never failed a mission, never shirked a duty, never allowed personal concerns to interfere with my obligations. I am the perfect Techmarine. Empty, efficient, reliable. Is this what they intended? Is this the goal? To strip away everything human, everything personal, everything that might cause doubt or hesitation, and leave only the function? If so, they have succeeded with me. I am their masterwork, their proof of concept. I am the monster at the end of the story, and I built myself. There is a major campaign on the eastern fringe. Tyranids, a splinter fleet large enough to threaten multiple systems. The chapter mobilizes in force, and I accompany them as I have 1,000 times before. I maintain the vehicles, I repair battle damage, I keep the war machine functioning. We fight for months. The Xenos are endless, a tide of chitin and hunger. Brothers fall, machines break. I fix what can be fixed and log what cannot. Casualty reports, damage assessments, resource allocation. I process it all with mechanical efficiency. In a quiet moment between assaults, I find Martellus. He is an ancient now, 350 years of service etched into his scarred face. He has led squads, commanded companies, served with distinction in 100 war zones. He is everything an Astartes should be, noble, fierce, dedicated. When he sees me, his expression flickers, recognition, then something else. Not quite sadness. Resignation perhaps, Carinus, he says. How fares the machine? All vehicles at 83% operational capacity, I report automatically. Estimated repairs will require— I meant you, brother, he interrupts quietly. How fare you? The question stops me. When was the last time someone asked after my well-being? When was the last time anyone saw me as something other than function? I serve, I reply, because it is the only answer I have. He nods slowly. You do. You have served faithfully for— how long now? 3 centuries. 314 years as Techmarine, I confirm. 387 years total service to the chapter. Such a long time, he murmurs. Longer than most. I am old, Carinus, and you have served longer than I. He places his hand on my shoulder, my augmetic shoulder, because that is all that remains, and the gesture feels like goodbye. I hope when I finally fall that you will remember me. Remember us. Remember what we were before Mars took you. I want to tell him I will. I want to promise that I will hold his memory sacred, that I will grieve when he falls. But I cannot lie to him. Not to Marcellus. Not to the last brother who still sees me as something resembling human. I will try, I say instead. I will try to remember. He smiles, sad and knowing. That is enough. It is more than enough. 2 days later, Marcellus falls. A Tyranid warrior, larger than the rest, breaks through the line. Marcellus steps into its path, draws its attention, allows his squad to retreat. He fights alone against the monster, his chainsword roaring, his bolter barking. He kills it, but it kills him too, its talons piercing his armor, his chest, his hearts. I receive the casualty report. I process the data. I note the tactical implications, and I feel something. Not grief, not the sharp agony I should feel at losing the last brother who truly knew me. But something, a distant echo of pain, a vague awareness of loss. It is not much. It is not enough, but it is something. I whisper his name in the darkness of my cell that night. Marcellus. Just the name, just the acknowledgement that he existed, that he mattered. It is the best I can offer. The most I'm still capable of. The campaign ends. The Tyranids are repelled at great cost. We return to the chapter's fortress monastery, and I return to my forge. The work continues. It always continues. Time passes. More years. More decades. I stop tracking. There is no point. One day is like another. 1 year indistinguishable from the next. Wake, work, sleep. Wake, work, sleep. The routine is comforting in its predictability, its mechanical simplicity. I am older than most of the chapter now. Brothers I never met die, and are replaced by others I will never know. The chapter master changes. The captains change. Even the Techmarines change as new recruits return from Mars to replace those who finally fall. But I continue. I persist. I function. They offer me entombment one day. My flesh is failing faster now, the biological components wearing out after centuries of strain. A Dreadnought sarcophagus awaits, they tell me. I can serve beyond the limits of flesh. Continue my work for centuries more. I think of Brother Kalen, his hollow voice echoing in my memory. I am a ghost. A memory of a man I decline, not out of fear but out of something else. A final, desperate grasp at ending. If I am entombed, I will never rest. I will serve for centuries, millennia perhaps, trapped in a walking tomb, my consciousness fragmented across endless sleeps and wakings. I would rather end. When my flesh finally fails completely, I would rather let it end. The Master of the Forge accepts my decision with a curt nod. As you wish, Brother Kiranis. You have earned the right to choose, so I wait. I continue my work, knowing each day might be my last. My remaining organs strain, my heart struggle, my lungs labor. The augmetics keep me functional, but the biological core is dying, slowly but inevitably. I do not fear this death. I welcome it. On what I somehow know will be my final day, I return to the Chapel of Remembrance. I stand before the memorial tablets, surrounded by the names of the honored dead. Valius, Marcellus, Captain Idaeus, hundreds of others, thousands, all the brothers who served and fell across the centuries. I search for the memory of my mother's face one last time. It is not there. I search for the feeling of sunlight on my skin, the taste of wine, the warmth of human connection. All gone, faded to nothing, but I remember that they existed. I remember that I once felt them, even if I cannot recall the specific sensation. I remember being Kiranis, young, whole, human Kiranis, even if I can no longer truly connect to who he was. I was a man once. I was loved. I had brothers. I knew joy. The data is there. Even if the experience is lost, I am still here. I whispered to the empty chapel, to the ghosts of memory, to the small dying core of humanity that somehow persists beneath the augmetics. Diminished, broken, but still here. My primary heart stutters. Pain lances through my chest, real pain, organic pain, the kind I have not felt in decades. My warning systems blare alerts. Catastrophic biological failure. Immediate medical intervention required. I disable the alerts. I silence the alarms. I allow the failure to progress. In my final moments, I think of the Omnissiah. I think of the Emperor. I think of service and duty and sacrifice. I have served faithfully. I have endured. I have given everything, flesh, emotion, humanity itself, in service to a cause greater than myself. Was it worth it? I do not know. I cannot know, but it was given freely, and perhaps that is enough. My heart stops one after the other. My lungs cease. The biological core shuts down, and the augmetics, lacking the organic foundation to power them, begin their own shutdown cascade. Darkness comes, not as horror, but as relief. As peace. My final thought is not of the Emperor or the Omnissiah, not of duty or honor or glory. My final thought is of sunlight and the warmth of my mother's hands, and the sound of Valius laughing. I was a man once, I remember.